My boss told me I wasn't ready for a promotion and gave it to an investor's son instead. So I decided to do only the job I was paid for. In the process, I watched the company I had single-handedly kept afloat crumble into dust. This isn't just a revenge story. It's about what happens when a company's most valuable asset is the work its employees do for free. If you've ever felt undervalued or taken for granted at your job, you've come to the right place. Stick around, because you won't want to miss how this plays out. And hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out, and trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming. For 5 years, I was the unofficial heart and soul of a mid-sized tech company we'll call Innovate Dynamics. My official title, Senior Project Coordinator. My actual job? Company firefighter, structural engineer, and the ghost in the machine. Innovate Dynamics had a great product, but its internal systems were a disaster, a mess of spaghetti held together by duct tape and, well, me. When a deadline was breathing down our necks and the sales team promised a feature the devs swore was impossible, who stayed up all night coding a workaround? That was me. When the finance department's shiny new software crashed and no one could send an invoice, who gave up a weekend to rebuild the database from old backups? Me again. I built and maintained dozens of unofficial systems, spreadsheets, trackers, back channels that became the real way the company ran. Everyone knew, from the interns to the execs, if you had a problem no one else could fix, you came to me. Honestly, I didn't mind the extra work. I loved the company and I believed in our mission. My boss, Mr. Davison, was always quick with praise. "Alex, you're a lifesaver," he'd say. "What would we do without you?" I was constantly told my dedication would pay off. I poured everything into that place. We're talking 60-hour weeks, cancelled plans, and putting the company's needs miles ahead of my own. I thought I wasn't just building a company, I was building my future. The next logical step was the Director of Operations role, a new position basically created to formalize the job I was already doing. It was a role I had designed for myself through years of sheer effort. Finally, the announcement for the new Director of Operations role went public. Mr. Davison called me into his office, beaming. He told me the job was mine to lose, that the interview was just a formality. "Just get your resume updated, Alex," he said with a wink. "We both know you've been doing this job for years." I was over the moon. The title and the pay were finally going to match the weight I'd been carrying. I spent that weekend polishing my application, carefully documenting all the secret systems I'd built and quantifying the insane amount of time and money I had saved the company. I walked into that final interview feeling like a lock. I sat down across from Mr. Davison, but he looked off, uncomfortable. The air in the room suddenly felt heavy. He cleared his throat and wouldn't meet my eye. "Alex," he started, "you have been a tremendous asset to this company, truly." He paused, and my stomach plummeted. "Oh, I knew that tone. However," he went on, "after careful consideration, we feel that you're just not quite ready for this level of responsibility. Your technical skills are second to none, but we need a leader with a broader, more strategic vision." It was the oldest corporate cop-out in the book. I was stunned into silence. Not ready? I asked for specific examples for any concrete reason. All I got back were empty platitudes about executive presence and blue sky thinking. The next morning, the all-hands email landed. "Please join us in welcoming our new Director of Operations, Chad Bromwell." I just stared at the name. Chad. The 25-year-old son of our biggest investor. His resume? A marketing degree and a summer internship at his dad's real estate firm. He was a kid in a suit, handed a title he couldn't handle and hadn't earned. The betrayal hit me like a physical blow. It wasn't just the job. It was the fact that they took all my sacrifice, all my dedication, and told me it was worthless, that it meant less than a powerful last name. In that moment, something inside me just broke. The first few days were a blur of pure rage. But once the anger cooled, it was replaced by a cold, sharp clarity. They said I wasn't ready for the responsibility. Fine, I would no longer accept it. They paid me to be a senior project coordinator, and from that day on, that's exactly what I would be. Nothing more, nothing less. People call it quiet quitting now. I just called it working my wage. No sabotage, that's illegal and not my style. I would just stop doing all the free, invisible labor that kept the whole show running. I would comply maliciously. My first move was to drag the company life support folder from my personal drive straight into the trash. It held all the keys to the kingdom, the custom scripts, the automated reports, the trackers I had built, that complex spreadsheet that cross-referenced inventory with sales data, gone. That script that automatically pinged department heads about bottlenecks, deleted. From now on, I'd use the official, clunky, barely functional company software like everybody else. The first crack appeared in less than a week. A department head frantically messaged me. "Alex, the Q3 projection tracker is broken. The data won't populate." "Oh, that was an unofficial tool," I replied with a cheerful tone. "Per company policy, all operational matters now go through the Director of Operations. I'm sure Chad can sort it out for you." Of course, Chad had no clue. That report was 2 weeks late. A few days later, a critical server went down at 6 p.m. on a Friday. The old me would have jumped on my home computer and had it running in an hour. But my job description clearly stated my hours were 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. So I switched off my work phone and enjoyed my weekend. That system stayed down until Monday morning, costing the company tens of thousands of dollars. Mr. Davison started calling me in for chats, trying to casually ask my opinion on things, basically tricking me into doing my old job for free. My answer was always the same polite, professional shoulder shrug. "Wow, that's a complex problem, Mr. Davison. It really requires a high-level strategic call. What does Chad think?" As the Director of Operations, he's the one to lead this. I became a brick wall of polite uselessness. I did my tasks. I attended my meetings. I went home on time, and I had a front row seat to watch the chaos unfold. Without my constant, unpaid intervention, the company's internal mess was finally exposed. Deadlines were obliterated. Projects ground to a halt. The other good employees, already overworked, saw the writing on the wall and started polishing their resumes. The whole place was starting to rot from the inside out. The final blow was almost poetic. Our biggest client, a corporation that made up nearly 40% of our annual revenue, was up for contract renewal. For 4 years straight, I had personally managed that relationship. I knew their team, I knew their needs, and I'd built a renewal process that was a delicate dance of technical specs and personal guarantees. Chad, in his infinite wisdom, saw his chance to be a hero. "I'll handle this one personally," he announced in a meeting. "Time to show some real leadership." Mr. Davison, desperate to please the investor, eagerly agreed. I just sat back and watched the train wreck. Chad sent them the wrong documents. He ghosted them on crucial check-in calls. He butchered names in emails. He tried to sell them on things they didn't need while completely ignoring their actual concerns. He had no idea he was dealing with a deep strategic partner, a relationship I had built. He just treated them like any other sales lead. 2 weeks before the renewal deadline, my phone rang. It was my old contact at the client company, and she sounded panicked. "Alex, what is going on over there?" she said. "His new guy is a complete disaster. He doesn't get our business at all. We're about to walk." I offered my sincere condolences and explained it was entirely out of my hands. An hour later, Mr. Davison stormed up to my desk, his face slick with sweat. "Alex, you have to save this," he hissed. "The client is walking. They said they'll only deal with you. Name your price. Bonus, new title, whatever you want. Just fix it." I slowly looked up from my keyboard, gave him a calm, measured smile, and delivered the words I had been replaying in my mind for months. "Mr. Davison," I said, my voice perfectly steady, "you yourself told me I wasn't ready for that level of responsibility. It would be unprofessional of me to step on the toes of our Director of Operations. I have full confidence that Chad has this under control. The look on his face, the slow-motion dawning of complete and utter horror, was priceless. He knew it was over. He turned and walked away without another word. The next day, the official email came through. The client was terminating their contract, effective immediately. Losing that one client was a death blow. You can't just patch a 40% hole in your revenue. The news ripped through the company and the exodus began. All the best talent, the people who had been watching the chaos and picking up the slack, were gone in a flash. Within a month, the layoffs started. The office became a ghost town. Mr. Davison was fired by the board. And Chad? He was quietly removed from the company directory. I heard later he was given a senior role back at Daddy's firm. 6 months after I was told I wasn't ready, Innovate Dynamics filed for bankruptcy. The assets were sold off, the brand vanished, and all that remained was a cautionary tale whispered in the local tech scene. So, where did I end up? The same day Chad's promotion was announced, I started sending out my resume. I had 3 job offers inside of a month. I accepted a position as, you guessed it, Director of Operations at a competing company. They saw my value and couldn't wait to bring me on board, offering me a 50% raise for the exact responsibilities I had been fighting for. And in the ultimate twist of irony, my new company ended up acquiring the business of that massive client my old company lost. They were thrilled to be working with me again, and I got to rebuild the partnership that Chad had so carelessly burned to the ground. Looking back, my old boss was right about one thing. I wasn't ready for the promotion at that company. I was overqualified. I learned that your value isn't decided by a clueless boss or a nepotism hire. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do isn't to fight harder, but to simply stop holding up a roof that's designed to collapse. You just have to step aside and let gravity do the work. What would you have done? Would you have saved them one last time, or let it all fall apart? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and if you enjoyed this little story of professional revenge, do me a favor and crush that like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching.